Welcome to Heidi Reddit Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first story is titled, "The Day I Caught My Fiancé Cheating 2 Days Before Our Wedding." So, I've told this story on Reddit a few times but figured this subreddit is the obvious place to get it out of my system. For reference, I'm now 31, but this happened in 2014 when I was 26 and my ex-fiancé was 25, female, let's call her Barb. We met in college and dated for 3 years prior to our engagement with a wedding date booked by the 4th year. Neither of our parents are well off financially and she was attending grad school, so the financial responsibility fell on me, which totaled $20,000 that was paid in full 4 days prior to the wedding. Leading up to that nightmare of an evening, we had our typical mid-20s relationship issues with bouts of poor communication, excessive drinking on weekends, and an occasional fight over trivial bullshit. Aside from that, we had a great relationship and spent a ton of time together figuring out post-college life and planning for our future. As I said above, the wedding and reception venue cashed my check 4 days before the wedding and the contract stated this was non-refundable. Over 120 guests were confirmed, a couple dozen from out of state, tuxes and bridesmaid dresses were fitted and paid, and everything was falling into place. Now let's get to the inevitable shitstorm of events that you're all interested in before I keep rambling. The night in question was a Friday evening in our new apartment that we'd moved into a few weeks prior, and we decided to have about a dozen friends over to pregame and head out to the bars in town. Included in this group of friends was my buddy whom I've known since kindergarten, we'll call him Ricky. Barb and I had spent a lot of time with Ricky over the last 3 years and he was definitely one of her favorite one of my pals, which is generally awesome when you're so gets along with people in your social circle. The night started at a local hookah lounge that was BYOB, so by the time we left there, a 1/5 of Jameson and 30 rack of Yingling were gone and everyone was buzzed. The next 3 hours were spent between 2 to 3 bars that resulted in the entire group devolving into a drunken, belligerent mess. Once the bars closed, most people went home with the exception of myself, Barb, Ricky, and another couple who came back to our apartment for a nightcap. Once back at our place, the couple only lasted another 20 minutes before calling it and making their way home, so I was left with Barb and friggin' Ricky. Earlier in the night at the hookah bar, I noticed Barb checking her phone more than usual, and simultaneously Ricky checking his phone after she would lock the screen. I almost put 2 and 2 together, but why would I worry about them planning anything shady 2 days before I was supposed to marry this girl? Back at my house, I was fairly sober and noticed all the booze was gone, so I was contemplating picking up a couple of 6-packs from a local spot that stays open until 3 a.m. Barb and Ricky were definitely on the liquor and tanked, but there was no reason to suspect anything sketchy would occur if I ran out for 20 minutes. Once in my car and preparing to exit my apartment complex, I got a sinking feeling in my gut that something wasn't right, and it completely freaked me out. So, I called my best bud and he agreed to be picked up and join me on the beer run and accompany me back to the apartment. After grabbing some Bud Heavies and returning home, we walked up to the sliding glass door that led to my living room that had a sectional to the immediate right. We opened the door, took 2 steps inside the apartment, and my ex-fiancé was completely topless and mounted on Mr. Ricky ducking tonsil deep down each other's throats. The amazing part of the situation was neither of them appeared to notice that my buddy and I were 10 feet away watching their sloppy, drunken escapades. After 7 to 10 seconds of attempting to comprehend the current situation, I lost it, dropped the booze, threw her backward off Ricky completely topless, and landed 2 hard right hooks to Ricky's eye and cheek while he was still laying on his back with the most terrified look on his face. To put things in perspective, I am 6 feet 220 pounds. and have played hockey my entire life. He is 5 feet 6 inches 140 pounds. And a runner. Immediately following the assault with my fist, Ricky started snoring, didn't know this was a thing, and was asleep for at least 5 minutes while I was losing my mind over the situation. Without thinking, I called her parents about 10 times until they woke up and demanded they come to pick up their cheating daughter immediately. Their house was only 5 minutes down the road, so they walked in shortly thereafter while I was laying into Barb about her unforgivable, disgusting decision. Her parents frantically walked into me screaming at Barb, Ricky asked out on the couch, and my buddy mediating the situation. The first thing I told everyone was the wedding was ducking off. I demanded the ring back and said I'd rather lose $20,000 than spend the rest of my life with a cheating witch. Her parents spent the next 20 minutes attempting to talk me out of it and occasionally defending Barb's actions, saying things like, "Why can't you forgive her?" or, "Isn't it too late to cancel the wedding?" Meanwhile, Ricky woke up and the right side of his face had swollen to the size of a grapefruit and his left eye was completely shut. Kicking him out of the apartment was tough because he was too drunk to drive, so I called his brother that was 20 minutes away and spent that time laying into Barb, Ricky, and her parents. Surprisingly, I was able to stay level-headed enough to express my thoughts in such an extreme state of rage. The few times I've been this upset in the past, my brain felt like it was scrambled, and I had a hard time condensing and forming my thoughts into logical statements. Not this time. By the time Ricky's brother picked him up and Barb's parents shuttled her home, I had systematically picked apart any objection, opinion, or plea for reconsideration expressed by everyone in the room. It felt really ducking great. I'm not going to pretend the following months were easy and everything worked out in my favor. 2 months later, the pharma company I worked at decided to lay off my entire division. I had racked up thousands in credit card debt to pay for the wedding, unemployment haunted me for 5 months, and I was diagnosed with major depression. Life was ducked up for a few years and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but now that I'm 31 things have settled down and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. A user in the comments said, "I wish there was some way for you to get some of the money from Barb or her family for the wedding. Did you consider reselling the engagement ring?" I can't even imagine what going through something like that was like. Especially when you think you're spending your life with someone. You're so strong for getting through all of that and coming on top. Depression is a witch to go through, and I truly hope you are feeling happier now. You really never saw any red flags before that Friday night at the hookah bar? Never thought something was off before then? I've found with a lot of the people I have dated there have been very subtle things I have noticed that I didn't think were quite right, but I was too scared to bring it up, or if I did, I was shut down. The next story is titled, My New Life. My life was moving pretty smoothly up until the beginning of this month. I had been living in a nice apartment in a large metro, good job, friends. I, 30M, met my fiancé, 29F, 7 years ago at my first job right out of college. I had moved from a smaller city to a very large city halfway across the states. I did not know many people and attached myself to her since we were desk mates. We immediately became best friends. We would leave work and call each other just to talk on our way home. It felt like I knew she would be in my life forever. She was just coming out of a relationship a couple years after we had met, now no longer working together. She stayed with the company and I got into another industry. I had dated around, nothing serious, but when I knew she was finally single I asked her to go to dinner. I didn't waste any time. Weird at first being so close of friends, but soon we became inseparable. We moved in together a few months later. A few years pass by, we are connected at the hip. We go out and have dinner together, get drinks with friends, always have people over to our place. It was, or what felt, like a stereotypical love story. I kept telling myself that this relationship was different because I knew if we'd ever argue that I didn't have to be right. The relationship was too important, and I wasn't too big to apologize and try and learn from it. I had become a better person with her, pushing myself in my career, being nicer to people, more empathetic and caring. I asked her to marry me 4 years in. This was a little over a year ago. After the engagement, we are both excited to start this new journey together. We tell our family and friends, and I think we party until the sun comes up. A few months pass, she comes home to tell me about an opportunity with her company, the company we both started at, that there's an opening to move to Australia and help them start a new division. We started talking about it and thought, why not? We are young and we might not have something like this pop up in our lives ever again. Everything would be paid for to get us over there and they'd help set us up with an apartment. Obviously, this would mean I'd leave my company after all those years, but we felt like when we'd be older, this would be something we looked back on and regret if we didn't go. We decided, she applied, and ultimately got the position. We moved last July and were living on the beach a month later. The hard adjustment at first was the time difference. We were on the other side of the world, just us. It was scary, but soon she got started working and things just kind of naturally fell into place. It took me about a month to find something similar to what I was doing back at home. A negative I kept hearing was, no Australian experience, and, why hire an American on a visa when there are Australians looking for work? My fiancé just kept saying to keep my head up and everything will be okay, I can cover us for a while. Things were moving smooth, loved where we lived, made some friends, we were active with swimming, diving, snorkeling, hiking. It started to feel like home to us. We decided we wanted to get married in Australia and have family come to us during Christmas, summer month in Australia, and have a long vacation with them. By that time, we'd have our wedding, honeymoon, a few months left on our visa, head home and start a family. That's at least what we had thought before COVID hit and we went into a tight lockdown. Our jobs got us everything we needed to work from home. We were in a pretty small apartment, but we could make it work. Plus, we spent all our time together anyways, so it wasn't all bad. I liked sitting with her, it made me feel like we were just meeting for the first time as desk mates. Time passed, COVID didn't. We were still working close and spending our time together. Eventually my job had to make cuts and I got the boot. I knew there were a lot of people going through the same thing, but it hurt having to go home and tell her. Again, she said, "Don't worry, I got us. We will get through this." I felt secure, safe, and madly in love. A few more weeks passed, I was still searching. I had a few opportunities coming up, phone interviews and one face-to-face. I was getting close. She was back in the office, so I didn't get to see her much during the day anymore. She started leaving a little earlier each morning and coming home later at night. It was to the point that I started noticing and asked if things at work were getting hectic. She said somewhat, but that she joined the gym at her office and was going before and after work. I thought that was good but also odd. The gym? We've been together for a while now and I think that's the first time I've heard gym come out of her mouth. Don't get me wrong, both very active, but gym. Treadmill. Weights. Again, super happy for her but still odd. Another couple week pass, I've ended up getting a job that would start in another week. Things have turned fast in our relationship. We haven't touched each other now in about a month. Constant arguing when she'd get home. It could be anything, but it would always be different the following day. How she brings home the money, "Don't you feel bad that I make more than you? Home, if they let me stay, I'm going to want to stay here, Kids, I know I said I wanted children a while back but now I don't. All these comments in addition to her now leaving at 4 a.m. and not coming home until 11 p.m. I thought, what is going on? I flat out asked her if there was someone else. She immediately and profusely denied and said that's crazy. She said that we had some problems but maybe we could go speak to someone about them and get back to us. I agreed and thought it was a great idea. I also thought maybe she should get away for a long weekend. I thought her work was getting tough and knew of a spa resort up north that was still open to a few people and booked her there. She was excited, dancing around the apartment, packing a bag saying how excited she was and that, we really need this. She said she wasn't going to bring her engagement ring because it was a spa, and she wouldn't be wearing it around anyways. I knew that was weird but didn't think much else of it. I mean, if this was what she wanted and thought it would get our relationship back then hell yeah, do it and let's get back to us. I go with her to the train station, say my goodbyes and she's off. Sitting at home with her gone sucked. We had been doing it now for months with COVID and all I kept thinking about is, wake up at 4 a.m. and not get home until 11 p.m., gone all weekend, won't let me go with when she's in the city Sundays. Something is up. I hated thinking like that but just couldn't stop. Saturday morning, I wake up, we FaceTime, she's been there now for 2 days and she's showing me this room. I tell her great, I was going to clean up and that she left her Apple Watch behind. She told me not to touch it, it was dead and that she'll charge it when she got home. Okay. After we get off the call, I plug her watch in, cleaned up the apartment, and went snorkeling for a couple hours. On my way home I kept telling myself not to look through her watch. I get in, drop everything and go straight for it. I type in her passcode and immediately start getting alerts. Who's this guy on her phone? Is that her coworker? Why did some guy ask her if the hotel room she was in was all clear, not a minute after our FaceTime? I saw pictures of them two kissing, on dates, and even pictures from the hotel room that they were in that weekend. I saw more than I should. I couldn't believe it. We were supposed to get married in a few months. I couldn't breathe. Before I call her, I start packing up everything I own, which isn't much because I had sold everything I'd owned to move there with her. I pack up, book a hotel for a night to get out of the apartment and book a flight back to the States and know the best and only logical option is to go back to my hometown and be with my parents until I can land a job. Also, now severely depressed that my engagement has crumbled, it's probably best to be with family. I call. She answers and I just ask, who's there with you? She sits in silence and I tell her that I saw everything on her watch. She got really defensive, you went through my things. I just say it's too late, I know what's going on now. She bursts into tears. I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. What can we do? What can we do? That would have been great to figure out before you slept with your coworker. Someone who's been in our house and out with us. You'd been leaving at 4 a.m. saying gym time but in reality, you'd been going to his house to sleep with him until work started. Then after work going back to his house, or dinner, then coming home to me. I felt like if I didn't grab a hold of something I was going to float away. I told her that the relationship was over, I was taking the ring back, and leaving now. She freaked out asking what that meant, leaving where? I said I was heading back to the States tomorrow and that I was leaving the apartment today. She'd have to figure out bills, rent herself and I wouldn't stay behind to help. I didn't ask why, I just told her good luck and that I'd be changing my number when I land home. She started blaming COVID, not wanting to have children, the area, maybe we shouldn't have moved. I just said goodbye and hung up the phone. She tried calling a few more times, asking to see me. I'd answer say no, let her ramble a bit and then hang up. The last thing she said to me was, "I was never going to walk down the aisle with you anyways." I was still in a daze until I got to the airport. She texted me saying that there were only 2 flights leaving Sydney for the US and they both left at the same time, so she knew where I'd be. She wanted to meet me at the airport. I got through security before I saw her. I just couldn't do it. I never saw her or have spoken to her since. I called a few of her coworkers, our friends, to see if they knew. I mean, how could they not? Most said yes and I'd end the conversation there. I got to the one I was closest with and she just broke down asking how I found out, apologizing, saying she's wanted to tell me for a while. Wait. A while? I asked how long she knew. She said 6 months. My fiancé and a coworker of hers had been in a relationship for 6 months. I almost passed out. I got home, changed numbers, blocked all social media, emails. I slept for about a week before I ventured out of my childhood room. I just started looking again for work back in my hometown and the city I was living in before I left. I think maybe that's not the best place since that's where I met her. Our friends have all grown up with their relationships and families they're building. I would have to start all over. I am starting over. I just had my 30th birthday yesterday. It was my parents, my brother, his pregnant wife, and me. We had pizza and cake. My parents accidentally got a cake that read, "Happy 31st birthday." I thought maybe they did it on purpose to wipe this year away, but it wasn't. After everyone left, I sat and just cried. I thought maybe writing this would be cathartic, therapeutic, but I'm just ducking sad. Please do not cheat. Update. So far, the transition moving back to my hometown hasn't been too hard. I think my family has really surrounded me and has made it a lot easier, always asking me to go out for dinner, golf, just being around, which is nice. I haven't necessarily been alone since coming back. I did get an amazing job, which doubled my salary, and that's awesome. I know with the times we are in, getting a job and a pay raise is just unheard of, and I'm so thankful. It also has me working and not thinking about her. I've been really trying to focus on myself. I work out for an hour every day and dropped some weight pretty quickly. It keeps me out of the house until 8 p.m. every day, so I'm keeping myself busy. It's actually become enjoyable, if that makes any sense. She's reached out a few times, asking about bills and stuff. We FaceTimed a few weeks ago, no clue what I was thinking. I thought maybe this would be the conversation where we had some closure. Maybe get a reason as to why? Nope, her bosses asked to meet with her about why I left and the rumors of her sleeping with a coworker, which is definitely against her company policy. She asked who I told. It all didn't matter. I was disappointed once again, but why did I expect anything different? The last thing she said was she was going to sue me because I took half of our joint account, which really helped me land on my feet. She called me a loser, and we haven't talked since. I've blocked her and all her friends, so I have no clue what's going on in her life. I really wish none of this happened, but what can you really do? 5 years with her and longer as friends, and now we're blocked on everything. I've run into friends, but nobody has really asked about what's happened. I have told 0 people about my relationship, except for y'all. I wish I could just put everything out there for everyone to know what she's done, but I can't get myself to do it. Every day I'm becoming more and more happy. Really don't think I would have come out of this if my family didn't surround me as well as they did. They've all dropped everything in their lives to lift me up and get me through this. I can't tell you how much I love them. I wish I could go through all of you guys and thank y'all for the kind words and encouragement. I'm so glad I got this all off my chest, and everyone has been so amazing. Thank you. The next story is titled, I found out at 2 a.m. New Year's Day that my wife was having an affair. She kept going for another 8 months. M28 I had my first GF when I was 21, she was the first person I slept with too. I loved her, we got engaged and married and moved in together over a 6.5-year relationship. I started getting suspicious of her and one of her workmates who was extremely clingy towards her. There were many red flags, which I ignored as this woman was the love of my life and my wife, why would she do anything so bad? But the suspicions kept building as more and more red flags appeared. I confronted her about these things, like him and her messaging constantly. I saw many messages from him to her with rows of heart emojis, how she would always favor going places with him over me, even when I specifically asked if me and her, could go together. She took him to a bird park that I loved to go to, she had him over for one night when I was away, and the bed sheets were in the washing machine when I got home. I had enough on New Year's when she was purposefully being distant from me, like I was a bad guy, or I had done something wrong. I took her phone and found her messages with him, that night confessing to each other how much they loved each other. Obviously, I felt destroyed but fool me attempted to keep our relationship going. I found they had been sexting each other a few weeks afterwards as well, and after a massive argument she promised to change. Fool me. They continued their thing until August where I found them out again. Before then there had been instances where she was purposefully distant to me, and lo and behold it was because she was doing things with him. Suspicion crept up again as she went to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, but only had one gym wear in the wash by the end of it, and she never was tired or did her fitness change. I demanded a divorce when I found out that she had named a star after him for his birthday, which was just a week or so before mine. As I had enough. She lied to friends and family about what had happened, stating that we were just getting distant and wanted different things. I retaliate with throwing everything on a FB post, including her confessions for the other guy, the naming the star purchase, photos of them out on trips which I had no clue of. I will admit, not my best moment, probably not fair either. After the divorce, I said I never wanted to hear or speak to her again. This was around 2 years ago, from time of posting, and in that time she has messaged me twice, both times I have completely ignored. But I keep the evidence of what she did safe just in case she tries anything. Honestly, for my first real relationship it was roller coaster. 4 months later, 4 days before Christmas, I lost my job, and my house and moved back into my mother's. Few years later and am I back on my feet, with a new job, looking for a new house, and got back into my karate, which I'm in a kata squad now and back in touch with lots of friends. Stuff her, I'm so much happier now. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.